A warning to those with sensitive ears or who are watching this with sensitive iterations of their younger selves. Later in the show, there will be a section that some of you might find provocative. Which is to say that some of you might not find it provocative. As to which camp you will find yourself in, we can hardly say, since you do not know the nature of the provocation. You're wondering, is it a timely provocation, meaning it is something of a political nature, or is the provocation timeless, meaning it is something entirely sexual? Well, to either affirm your fears or to further titillate your expectations of this show, I am here to warn you that the provocation is at once both entirely political and sexual. And I know you're thinking to yourself, how, after what has been the ugliest of election cycles, the election itself just 1 week away until finally we will be done with this madness, ? How possibly could I say anything that would be provocative enough at this point that it would merit a warning? Well, to that end, allow me to read you an email that I received after performing one of the previous 2 episodes of this series, in which I had stated, rather pointedly, that I did not think that our president, Donald Trump, had handled the pandemic very well. And the email begins. It says, "Hi, Martin. We've always enjoyed your shows when you visited our Fringe in Edmonton. But we feel that tonight's show on Facebook showed your true colors as a left-wing activist." And if I may, for a moment, take offense, on behalf of actual activists, people who actually organize rallies, who go to marches, who at least make signs for people who go to marches, who at least make sandwiches for people who make signs, who go to marches, unlike myself, who've done none of these things. The only thing I've done, apparently, is now lowered the bar so precipitously on what now constitutes activism, to the extent that my 2-year-old daughter, 20 years from now, may turn to me and ask, "Father, what did you do for the country as it was falling apart?" And I will be able to, perhaps with my head held high, inform her that I was an activist by telling her, "Baby, I was on Facebook." You're blaming Donald Trump for the fatality numbers of COVID is laughable and shows the uneducated side of you, which is funny, calling me uneducated, seeing as how his most stalwart supporters, every poll classifies them as people who are uneducated. It's not me who's saying that, it's the polls. Being a critical thinker is more important now than ever to protect our rights and freedoms. There are many sources of information available to you if you choose to delve into it more. And then he includes one link to a podcast by Tony Robbins, who apparently is not only a self-help guru, but is the go-to source when you have questions about infectious diseases. Lastly, voicing your political views on this platform is exclusive and divisive. We were surprised you would do something like that, and hence the warning. But what you should do with the sexual aspect of the provocation yet to come is perhaps more difficult to say, because of course you do not know the nature of the provocation and how sexual it will get. And so I would love to just tell you right now, but then of course that would negate the whole purpose of having a warning. And so just in the broadest outline, what is to come will deal with the fact that I have had sex. That's the long and the short of it, without going into too much detail about what part of it is long and what part of it is short. And I'm sure there's many of you out there who have given me the benefit of the doubt and are thinking to yourself, well, Martin, we already figured that you had sex. You did just mention a few sentences ago that you have a 2-year-old child, and you did not mention that she is the Messiah and was born of a virgin mother. And believe me, if my child was the Messiah, that would be my introduction to every conversation, a great icebreaker, really, to be like, hey, my daughter's the Messiah. What's your kid doing these days? But I didn't bury the lead. She's not the Messiah. And yet still there's some of you who are hearing this evidence and being like, I know you have a child, but I can't picture it. I don't really, I'm sorry, no offense, but I just, and I get it. I do get it, because what you're looking at now is someone who is speaking to you while wearing what you perceive as the largest prophylactic you've ever seen on my face. Because if indeed a prophylactic is to prevent someone from getting a sexually transmitted disease, well, I tell you, this beard, it does so in spades, because it also prevents me, I would believe, from actually having sex. But to those people who think that it would be impossible for anyone to want to, anything with someone, might I remind you that on this great green and blue planet of ours, there is, thankfully, someone for everyone. And that there are some women, a small fraction of them, for who the movie Castaway was an erotic fantasia, perfectly realized on celluloid. That an emaciated Tom Hanks is who they imagine getting into bed with them as they toss and turn on sleepless nights. Imagine if this was you who had this fantasy. Imagine how excited you would be if you were at a crowded bar back when there were crowded bars, to look across it and see me sitting on the other end of the bar, alone, because this is not only a prophylactic against sex, it's a prophylactic against friendship. So of course I'm alone, nursing Bloody Mary, my beard accidentally dipping into the drink with every single sip I take, the tomato juice sort of streaming out of my beard as if my chin were a colander and my head were a bowl of penne pasta. And as fate would have it, of course, I've just come from a volleyball game, and I have said volleyball right here in my lap, and you will be mesmerized with ever-increasing desire as you watch me take one hand and wipe the tomato juice off my beard and then place that stained hand squarely onto the volleyball. Too much for you as you make your way across the bar and insist that we go home right now to make sweet love, which of course I will be all too happy to do, never having done so before, and relieved finally to understand what is this thing we call sex. And because I'm so happy to have it, I won't mind that during our entire love-making session, you will insist that I hold in my hand a FedEx package. And as you yell out repeatedly the name Wilson with each thrust, you will ask if I can answer back while holding the package up with each thrust, just the statement, I'm gonna need a signature. There are those of you who's like, yeah, we know, okay, we get it, we hear that, we understand, there's someone for everyone, we understand you've probably had sex, but there's a reason that generally in polite society, sex is a taboo topic. It's something that should remain private, don't you think so? And believe me, I think that currently on planet Earth, there's no one who understands the value of privacy more than me, because I lost all notion of it 2 years ago when my baby girl was born. I never thought that there would be a moment in my life when another human being would take such interest in my bowel movements. When she understands that I am making my way to the bathroom, a certain excitement lights up in her eyes. We have a door, but she has learned to tear through that door as much as we would tear through a bag of Doritos during the Super Bowl. She likes to lean one arm onto my thigh and narrate in all seriousness the proceedings that she hears emanating from the bowl upon which I'm sitting. With each noise, she will raise a finger and go, ah, and then another is, ah, and then look me in the eyes and say, pooping. And as strange as the whole situation is, as every parent can attest, there's a part of me that does feel a little bit proud, as everyone would for their daughter, to hear her, getting something right. And so I understand privacy, I understand, but you got to understand this right here is a birthday party, in case you couldn't tell. I do not normally wear a short sleeve party shirt over a sweater, but I am today because this is a celebration of sorts, a strange celebration. I mean, birthdays are sort of strange animals, even in the best of times. It's an anniversary that we celebrate that we can't actually remember. And we gather our friends around us who can remember it even less than we can. And if we celebrate it correctly, we all get inebriated to the extent that nobody can actually remember the party in which we are celebrating the thing that nobody can actually remember. But we can all agree we will never forget any of our birthdays in 2020, will we? If a year ago someone had said to me that a year from now, when you turn 52, you will send out an inordinate amount of invitations across the internet for people to come to your birthday celebration. You will send it to people who would have to travel thousands of miles in some instances to come here. I'd be like, no, what, really big? Yes, you will. And they will come to this party and none of them will be allowed to speak. They'll all just have to listen to you go on and on. And what's more, you won't even know if anyone is listening. You won't be able to see anybody. None of the guests will be able to see each other. If I had heard this, I would have imagined this party taking place in some sort of fantastical mansion filled with tons of rooms, and that each room would have its own separate entrance. And each person's arrival time would be staggered so that nobody would run into anybody else. And the only fixture in the room would be sort of shaft leading down to a two-way mirror that would look into the room I was in the middle of this. A room in the middle of which I would just be saying to I don't know who that this is a birthday we will never forget, until at some point I will turn off the light and then be sitting in a sort of darkness, as I assume everybody else at the party will be too. I don't know who's here, And I will be doing what I do at every birthday party's end. I will be wondering, did anybody enjoy themselves? Did I say anything inappropriate tonight? Perhaps I should have started off with a warning. But I hope that even if this party were taking place in a mansion, that I would appreciate that a birthday party is different than other parties. You need something dangerous at a birthday party, something salacious, something to mark it as, hey, we're still alive, we're still here, one more year. Because without this story of provocation, both political and sexual, that is yet to come, all we have here for me to relate to you is a day that is like every other single day during this pandemic, which is to say it would be a story of me hanging out with my 2-year-old daughter. If I were a lesser artist right now, and if I were intent merely upon playing a sort of nostalgic tune on your heartstrings, I would have begun this show by saying, I need no presents. I need no card. Because I was given the greatest gift there is 2 years ago with the birth of a healthy baby girl, which I wouldn't say because I don't peddle in such treacle. And what's more, I don't believe in the idea of a gift that keeps on giving, particularly when that gift requires that you get up every other day when it's your turn at 6 in the morning or 5:30 in the morning At whatever hour it is, it's dark outside. And it seems in those moments that the night is in no mood to give itself over to the day, and that the sunlight is as equally not eager to accept the mantle of the day from the night. This is a strange hour right there, and somewhere 5 and 6 in the morning, where it just seems that time stops, even though you know it's an hour. It's just you're just there. You're the only person awake in the entire world, the only person who exists. I think it's probably very similar to how it must have felt before the Big Bang itself, when there was no time, there was no way to measure change. And the only difference between that moment before the Big Bang and now is that there's a very diminutive person standing in front of me, demanding that I keep dancing. Maybe not literally keep dancing, but just keep doing something. She's a very fickle audience member, and her tastes change but more quickly at times than my capacity to change my act. It's a very strange and demanding thing. And if I were to really relate to you, the story of what we do, gosh, it would get boring. And so we have this provocative story. We have a provocative story, which is exciting, which makes us a birthday party. To be clear, Vanessa doesn't think I should tell you this story. She said to me, Martin, the story does not reflect well on you. To which I said, I know that, but I think it's important in this era of very carefully sculpted and scrubbed social media profiles to reveal to people that, hey, I'm not perfect. To which Vanessa said, no one thinks you are. To which I said, I just want to make it clear. To which Vanessa said, oh, it's clear. To which I said, why do you have to speak so slowly when you're making a point? To which she said, because I'm afraid that this show is going to end. You're going to close your computer and you're going to wonder, did I just say anything stupid? Why did I say what I said? And that you might then break into tears. To which I said, Vanessa, it's my party and I can cry if I want to. Because without that, I'm just left to describing different children's books that my daughter and I read together, which you don't want to hear about that. I don't want to tell it even less because I don't like children's books. I wish I knew a children's book editor, because I would have a good sit down and I'd say, I don't understand. Why do these books lack sophistication? To which I'm sure the answer would be well, at the age of 52, perhaps you are 5 decades removed from the target audience, And to be clear, I get what they're saying. I don't disagree. To wit, my daughter's favorite book in the world is my least favorite book in the world. And yet, fate would have it that I am forced to read this to her on a regular basis. And now understand, when I say read, whenever we get a new book, I don't actually read it as a way to sort of entertain myself. I don't know, to sort of put off the eventuality of having to actually read the words and be disappointed in them. What I like to do is I flip through a book and judging from its pictures, which, by the way, I love the pictures in children's books, okay? And I look through the pictures and I guess at what the story is, And I will do that a number of times, and I don't try to make it funny. I don't try to make it wild and serious. No, I literally try to figure out what the story is just by looking at the pictures. And then eventually I will read the book, as I did with my daughter's favorite book in the world, which has become my least favorite book in the world, which I have recently decided to read the actual words because it has become relevant to me for reasons you will see. The title of this book is Alfie and the Birthday Surprise, which, no surprise, is about Alfie. He's a 5-year-old boy, something like that. And you read this, so he's got parents and he's got grandparents, and you realize, oh, it's a story actually about Alfie and his grandfather. Okay, his grandfather, who very, very old. very old man. You wonder how old he is. Well, he's this old, okay? This old. He just now sits in front of his TV with his cat on his lap, just, just waiting to die. I mean, that's what's happening here. Maybe he's got a year left, maybe he's got a month, maybe about a couple of weeks. And if I were writing the story, I mean, that's what it would be about. It'd be about his grandfather dying and Alfie having to deal with it. You know what I mean? But he doesn't die. His cat dies. Maybe that's a better choice. I don't know, And the grandfather is sad. And then Alfie has the idea, let's throw him a surprise party to cheer him up, And everyone says, that's a great idea. And so they get him some presents. They get him a cardigan because, old people are cold. And then they get him a potted plant because, that's about the speed at which the friends of old people move. And then Alfie has the idea to get him a kitten, and they do, and that's how the story ends. There's no twist. Nobody walks in with like a paternity suit, or no. There's no twist. There's no double crossing. No, that's just how it ends. And no one makes any real note of the fact that the true heroes of the story are not Alfie, as it's made to seem. It's actually his parents who allowed Alfie to get the kitten for the grandfather. Because in so doing, they're really just acknowledging that they, in a year's time, a month's time, a week's time, are essentially adopting an adult cat that they're going to have to take care of once the grandfather is done. But nobody pays any attention. The authors, they don't pay any attention to them. If I were the editor, that would be the big thing of this. But anyway, not so long ago, I decided to actually read this story to see how much of it I got right. And the point is, yeah, sure, I got most of it right. It's not hard to figure out, except for one detail that I don't think they had to throw in here, but they did. And I have to wonder, is it the author? Is it the editor? Or is there some more universal forces at play when they just state out this, hey, it's Dad's birthday next week? And I read this a week ago. Maureen told Mom and Alfie when she was sitting in their kitchen at tea time, he will be 52! He will be 52! I was like, what? I was like, wait a minute, whoa. The old man who's like got a year left who's sitting with the TVs. 52, and it's that moment you have when you get to sort of see yourself as other people see you, or at least as children's authors and editors see you. When they want an old man, they make him 52. I was like, no. I was like, this book this is not about, that's the birthday surprise. But then I started thinking about it, looking at it, I'm like, well, they got him a cardigan. Like, I'm wearing a sweater. You know what I mean? I like sweaters. And then they got him a potted plant. But when you actually read the words, look what it says here. It's not a potted plant. Can you see that? It's a pot plant. They got him a pot plant. And I'm like, oh my God, this is about me. That is what I want. And I'm like, what editor allowed it? They got him a pot plant. And then it goes on. They got him a jug with a picture of the sun and the moon and the stars on it. And I'm like, oh my God, I like space. And the kitten, they got him, and he names the kitten Boots. And I'm like, I have boots. And I just like, oh my God, it's over. You know what I mean? Like, I forgot I was getting older. I thought 52. Everyone keeps saying 52 is the new 25. Everyone maybe people aren't saying that. I thought people were saying that. And so it's in this frame of mind that I'm sort of dealing with my own mortality, sort of walking around in Montauk. We're in Montauk, New York, at the very eastern tip of Long Island, and we came out here temporarily. We didn't know we were going to stay out here, but we're still here 7 months in, and so we didn't know anyone when we came here, so we don't have friends. We can't meet anybody while we're here, because it's a pandemic. You're not allowed to get any closer to anybody than like a football field away. So like, it's a very lonely birthday party. No, I can't have a celebration, and I'm facing my own mortality. And it was this frame of mind. I was walking around our neighborhood and I saw one of our neighbors, and we were actually close enough to converse, and we don't know each other, right? But he's seen me walking around, and he says to me, hey, we've entered into fall. All the vacationers have gone home because it's sort of a beach town here, and he's like, we're going to have a party in our backyard, sort of a block party for everyone in the neighborhood. Why don't you guys come by? It'll be Saturday night between 5 and 10. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I go home and I speak to Vanessa, and I'm like, Vanessa, I was just invited to a party. Okay, you know what I mean? And I'd be delicate because I know that Vanessa can't come, even though she was invited. Because the little girl, she goes, you know, she has dinner at like 6 and she goes to bed by 7, and it's not going to work out logistically. And I know Vanessa knows this too. Even as I'm bringing it up, I'm like, so can I go to the party by myself? I was like, I just think I'd love to go to a party, and I know it's going to be a bad party. It's going to be a terrible party. You know what I mean? We're all going to be in the backyard, socially distant, all masked up. You know, and he for sure he said that. You know, but I just would like to go and maybe reminisce about what parties used to be like. And Vanessa, bless her, she's like, absolutely go. It's your birthday. You know what I mean? You don't have that many left. She didn't say that, but that's the implication. And it was one of these the parties that you have to either bring a drink or you have to bring a dessert. And so I thought, like, I'm not bringing a drink. Like, how original, a bottle of wine. No, I have to make myself known here, you know. And so I decide I'm going to bake something, and I don't know what to bake. I don't know how to bake anything, you know. I'm not going to make just like a box of brownies, you know what I mean? What creativity is put into that? And so I'm sort of racking my, and all of a sudden it comes to me. Lemon squares. I'm like, lemon squares. I don't even know if I've had a lemon square. Like, I've certainly never made them. I don't know, but I'm like, I like it. It's not that I'm a square. Okay, you understand that? But I feel like I've got to kind of go against type here with the this and the that. You know what I mean? Like, if I show up with something that's got clearly defined edges, you know what I mean? And geometric in shape, while at the same time being zesty, you know, fruity, tart and sweet, and something that has captured the color of the sun and still retains its glow. That's me. That's who I want them to know that I am. And so I go to the supermarket and I get the ingredients, I bring it back, I watch a YouTube video and I make it. And it's not hard, but when you don't know how to bake, everything's a little bit hard and everything's a major accomplishment. They come out amazing. I'm very proud of them. And I stack them perfectly, you know, inside this very large Tupperware thing with like the lid like clicks on both sides. And I asked Vanessa, you know, if I can kind of go leave a little bit early so I can walk around the neighborhood before going to the party. And she says, sure. And just between you and me, right before I leave the house, I open up the Tupperware lid and I just readjust things so that, you know, so they're not all perfectly like all straight. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't want them to think I've thought about this too much. I put the lid back on and I go outside and I go for a little walk. You know, if I was going to go right to the party, it would be like a 5-minute walk right there. To take a long way around, it's going to be like a 30 minutes, you know, clear my head, think about, I'm turning 52, you know what I mean? And this was just on Saturday, so 52 in 3 days today, right now. And to give you a sense of like how small of a town, a village really, Montauk is, it was developed in the 1920s. They had this idea that it would sort of be like a Miami or something like that. This developer from Miami came up and he made all these things. There was going to be casinos. There's a big manor up on a hill, and they've made a 5th Avenue with the idea that eventually they'd get around to making a 4th, a 3rd, a 2nd, and a 1st Avenue. They never did, and I don't know what 5th Avenue looked like when they made it, but now it's just a residential street near where we live, filled with lots of nice houses, one of which was in the midst of being constructed when we arrived here in March, and it was a sign, oh, the times that construction halted, right? As all of time seemed to halt, as we were all frozen, unsure of what was going to happen next. And I worried for this house that was halfway constructed, that was covered now with tarps, worried the tarps would blow off, worried the constant drizzle and mist that seemed to be all encompassing and ever present would damage the interior of this house that had yet to be protected by weather resistant shingles. You know, I just add this worry to the list of things to worry about during coronavirus. But as the summer progressed, workmen showed up, heavy machinery, a dumpster out front. It wasn't a sign that things were returning to normal, but it was an indication that there is some sense of progress forward towards at least something else. And that house, for me, became a sort of a potent symbol of I don't know, as I said, moving forward. And I haven't walked by the house in a few weeks, but when I did on Saturday, lo and behold, dumpster's gone, heavy machinery is gone, house finished, perfect, beautiful, gleaming white, perfectly painted. It's a big house. They have colonnades out front, which I guess makes it a mansion, but really it's a big house. And the most salient feature of this house is the fact that the front door is ajar. And I have invested a lot of emotional energy into this house already. You understand that, right? And so I give this sort of look around me in a way that no one is supposed to understand is me looking around me. And then without giving it too much more thought, I walk up the walkway and whoop, walk inside the house. And my heart is beating. My heart is beating. You know what I mean? Because I know I'm not supposed to be here. I know that if I'm found in here, it's going to be very embarrassing. And like I'll feel dumb or something like that, you know. But at the same time, it feels good to know why my heart is beating, you know, because we've been hiding for 7 months in a state of sort of anxiety, hiding from something we can't see, that we don't even really know if it's there or not there or what's going. You know what I mean? So it's good to have something literal to feel wary about, while at the same time not feeling that actually scared, you know, that I would get in too much trouble, because it's mid-afternoon, it's a sunny fall day, and I am carrying a tub of lemon squares. If you ever need to rob a bank, walk in with a tub of lemon squares, because it will give you the power to proceed. Because who's going to think ill of you coming to do something wrong, carrying this? Nobody. A monster, that's who, you know what I mean? And anyway, the house is empty. There's nothing to steal inside the house, you know? And so I walk into the kitchen, you know? It's a beautiful appointed kitchen, you know what I mean? All the appliances built into the wall, they're all up there, you know what I mean? I imagine what it would be like if I had baked these lemon squares in this kitchen, how much even better they'd be. What it would be like my life if I lived in this house with this kitchen. I walk into the living room, there's a large fireplace there. There's no furniture, but I imagine where the chair would be. I imagine myself sitting there drinking a scotch and a whiskey, you know, both at once, reading reports. I've never read a report in my life. But in this version of me, who lives in this house, I'm reading reports and I'm loving it. I love reports. And my wife walks in with like some tequila shots, you know what I mean? And you don't understand, it's not Vanessa. It's not Vanessa who walks in. And again, I've told Vanessa this story. She knows the story. She understands. It's just me, just sort of like allowing my imagination to roll forward. I don't have an image of what this person looks like in my mind. She's just a formless wife, you know, who I suspect I don't even actually like that much. I think we got together mistakenly. Our differences are perhaps what mistakenly fueled passion between us, and perhaps we built this house together to sort of paper over the fact that we don't actually like each other. And she keeps me inebriated to the extent that I'm really unable to raise much of a protest against the fact that here I am locked in this loveless marriage. But be that as it may, I make my way up the staircase to the second floor, round a corner, go into the master bedroom. Again, there's no bed in there, but that's where my wife and I would nightly consummate our marriage. And I say nightly because my wife and I, we enjoy playing this game of constantly being like, wait, have we consummated our marriage yet? And so just to be sure, we would, my wife, who I don't like, and myself, to be clear, not Vanessa. I've told Vanessa this story. It's a completely different fantasy wife. And then I walk out of the bedroom into the hallway, and there's a person standing there, like a person, like you've seen them, you know what I'm talking about. And I did not know I'd hear anything, and I let out a yell, you know. So does this person, who I suppose equally did not know I was in the house. And there are many emotions that I'm experiencing at the moment, but the most prominent one is embarrassment, stupidity, and realizing there is no excuse for me being in this person's house. And what's more, she's a woman, I'm a man, and I'm aware that I'm, you know, suddenly, from her point of view, coming across a homeless person in her house is not going to make her feel comfortable. So I immediately put up my hand and I just start being like, I'm sorry, like a fusillade of words of being like, I was just walking by the house and I wanted to imagine what it'd be like if I lived here. And I'm so stupid. And as I'm speaking, I'm realizing she's speaking equally quickly and is saying a variation of the exact same thing, being like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was walking by and I just said, oh, I've been curious to know what this house would look like. You know, I've been watching me build. And then I'm like, wait, you don't live here? And she's like, wait, you don't live here? And we're both like, no, we don't live here. And then she laughs, and I'm like, ah, and we both let out. You could feel it, a sigh of relief and laugh. And she's obviously not feeling threatened, and it's okay. And I know it's not germane to the story, but because you understand where my mind has just been, she is an attractive woman. She just is. And I've been in the midst of imagining a fantasy wife. And then lo and behold, there's a woman standing in front of me who I think, I don't know, I might be projecting this, but I do think was imagining what it would be like if we were married. It's very difficult to describe that vibe. If you've ever been in a situation where you've been walking around a house that wasn't yours, and then you run into someone else who's also walking around the same house that also isn't theirs, and then you feel that maybe they're imagining what it would be like if you were married, then you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't experienced it, then it's, as I said, it's hopeless to try and describe it. But trust me, it was there. The vibe was strong, and I felt also, of course, I'm not wearing a mask. She's not wearing a mask. I should apologize. So I'm like, hey, also, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'm not wearing a mask. I didn't know I didn't think anyone would be here. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, I'm like the last person you have to worry about with wearing masks. Okay. Because like, as if they actually do anything anyway. And me, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Which I don't know what she means. To be clear, between us, I believe in masks. You know what I mean? Like maybe they don't do anything. I don't know. Maybe they don't do anything. But I feel like we actually have no other form of protection. So why not wear a mask? And if they don't do anything, well, then the worst is that maybe we look a little bit buffoonish. You know what I mean? But the best is that they might not only save our lives, but the lives of our loved ones, the lives of our parents, the lives of those with pre-existing conditions, might save people from current suffering and from experiencing pre-existing conditions into an unknown future. And so I figured wear the mask, but I realized what I've said to her is they are words of agreement, which is not what I meant, but yeah, I'll let it go. And yes, I'm aware that her not wearing a mask probably makes her a Trump supporter. And you might wonder, did that bother me? And of course it bothered me. But on the other hand, you know what I mean? Like, we're married, and we're getting along so well. I don't want to get into another fight. You know what I mean? Like, let's just, let's not rock the boat here. And things are going on well until all of a sudden, they're not going well because we both stopped speaking because we suddenly hear the front door of the house open down below and two people come in. And again, all that feeling of stupidity comes right back in. And it was like, oh God, man, we had one chance to get out of here. And now I got swept up in the fantasy again. And that's so stupid of me. And the people are coming up the stairs. You know what I mean? And of course, we're looking at each other and being like, we should hide, obviously. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, if you hide, that means you have something to hide. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine squeezing into a closet, particularly with a tub of lemon squares. It feels like you just can't. And so we don't. We just stand there, sort of like not speaking and just hoping we're invisible, which means that when the two people do come up the stairs and round the corner, they see us and didn't hear us and let out a yell, which startles us, which makes us yell too. And right away, we're both like, we're sorry. We were just walking by, wanted to imagine what it'd be like if we lived here. And they're saying the exact same thing. They're like, we were also just wondering about it. And then we're like, wait, you don't live here? They're like, no, you don't live here. We're like, oh my God, none of us live here. And we're all like, and I know it's not important to the story, but I just feel like it's important to know my main, just to point out, they are a very good looking couple. It doesn't matter, but my God, I don't have any friends who've ever been in any catalogs. You know what I mean? I didn't even know but these people, they've stepped right out of the fall collection of, I don't even know what clothing company. They're all dressed in like ochre colors and burnt orange and ivy patterns. It's really quite striking, and the vibe is it's palpable. I'm like, oh my God, we are going to have a foursome. Which, spoiler alert, we don't have a foursome. You know what I mean? I love my wife. I've told Vanessa all of this, to be clear, but it's very exciting because look, it's one of my great embarrassments. I'm just going to reveal something to all of you right now. I have never had a foursome. I've been in a lot of parties where I've seen them forming a lot of threesomes. I can see them scanning the room, looking for a fourth, and I've seen their eyes land on me for like a second and then quickly skip towards someone else. And so you can understand, okay, my excitement to finally be considered, you know what I mean? And to be like, oh my God, like it's on, right? You know what I mean? And does it, bother me that they're not wearing masks? Whatever, I'm not wearing a mask either. And so I say to them, I'm like, hey, just sorry, we're not wearing masks. We didn't know it. And they're like, oh my God. They're like, not only are we not wearing masks, we've never worn masks, we never will wear masks because we believe in our rights and freedoms as Americans, which I say to them, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally know what you mean, which I don't know what they mean. I don't know what rights and freedoms have to do with wearing a mask to protect others from possible disease. It seems a bit selfish to me, but I understand the words I said to them were entirely affirmative, and so they wouldn't be wrong for being mistaken for thinking that I agreed in their sort of maskless declaration of their privilege to infringe upon other people's health. But the vibe is so good. The vibe is so good. Who wants to ruin it until all of a sudden the four of us stop talking? Because you can imagine what happened. The front door opened downstairs and we heard two people come in, the owners, and we were all like, oh, it's stupid, it's come back. But luckily they don't come up the stairs. We can hear them downstairs. They walk into the kitchen and we all start walking to the stairs to go down and get out of here, when all of a sudden you can imagine what happens. The front door opens and we hear two people come in, the owners. And they also don't come upstairs, thank God, you know what I mean? But we hear them walk into the living room, just so the people who'd gone to the kitchen walk back into the living room, and then all of a sudden they run into each other, and they all get out of rel, just startled, like, and then we hear them all be like, oh my God, I'm sorry, we're just walking by, we didn't imagine what it would like to live here, oh, you don't live here, you don't live here, and then they all start laughing, they're like, oh my God, while the four of us upstairs, we're all like, oh my God, this is so funny, and so all four of us just down the stairs to go meet them, and we round the corner, but they didn't hear us coming, so when we round, they yell, they're like, and which makes us startle. We go like, and I just want to interject here. It's not really pertinent to the story, but they are a very good-looking quartet. I don't know if you've ever taken a lot of ecstasy, like a lot of ecstasy. Some might say too much, and found yourself at a rave and everyone's wearing black light and Paul Oakenfeld is on the decks, you know what I mean? And everybody's chewed their tongues off and you just think how beautiful people are. Well, that's what they look like, minus the ecstasy, minus the black light, minus everybody looking like they're 12 years old because they're 12 years old. And did it bother me? Did it bother me that they were all wearing "Make America Great Again" hats? No, not so much, particularly because the vibe in the room was that I think we are going to have an eightsome. I mean, spoiler alert, we do not have an eightsome, okay? You know what I mean? I wouldn't have an eightsome. I'm very much in love with my wife, but the vibe is palpable. And I'm like, oh my God, I've only heard of one person in my life having an eightsome, and that was back in 8th grade. And I didn't believe him. But now that I'm feeling the vibe, I'm like, oh, maybe I should reassess my doubts about that story from so many years ago, and you could feel like this is all right, and my wife, my fantasy wife, is like, love your hats, and they're like, do you guys want some? And we're all like, yes. And so they give us 4 hats, which I put on my head, and "Make America Great Again" hat. But the way I put it on, people I hope can like realize that like I'm not really putting this on my head. I'm and I put it on with a certain attitude, which if they'd been discerning people, they would have reckoned, but they weren't, and whatever. I didn't make a stink about it, and we're frankly having a very nice conversation, and the sexual vibe is there, and we don't know which way it's gonna go when all of a sudden we stop talking because out the window we see a car pull up and a man gets out and he's wearing a tie and he's wearing a jacket, and it's just like, oh my God, it's the owner of the house. And we all look at each other and we're like, oh, we're so stupid, And then quickly everybody just runs into the kitchen, and there's a door there that goes down to the basement. All 8 of us are like, down to the basement, and we round the corner and we all stop short because on the other side of the basement there's 8 other people lined up against the wall, and we all go like, and they're starting to go like, and we're like, we're sorry, we're just walking by and wanted to imagine what it'd be like if we lived here. And they're like, we know, we heard you upstairs. And I'm just going to say that it really, I don't think it's not going to be relevant to this, but they're very good looking group of 8 people. Like I have a certain image in my mind when I was in 2nd grade. I was very into the Greek gods and goddesses, and I've never seen them like actually in real life portrayed. Like these were them. Lots of curly black hair. everywhere. If that doesn't sound appealing to you, well, then I'm not describing it well, because believe me, it was very appealing. And they were all sort of wrapped in sort of these Trump flags. Someone had a bandana with an image of Trump shooting a machine gun. I don't know why that's any candidate should be doing that. You know what I mean? But it's fine. We're all whispering to each other, you know, and we're listening. There's upstairs the footsteps of the man walking. We're like, we're just having to look at each other. And let me tell you, the vibe is very strong. I'm like, oh my God, I think we're going to have a 16-some. Which I didn't even know 16-sums were real. Like, I've looked it up in the dictionary since, and it actually stops at 15. We were going to have as much of a sum as you could have plus one. To be clear, we don't have a 16-some. I wouldn't have a 16. I love my wife, you know what I mean? But wow, the vibe is there. And we hear the owner then going up the stairs to the second floor. So then the 16 of us we all quickly run up the stairs, you know, into the kitchen. And we're making our way very quickly through the living room towards the front door, when unbeknownst to us, the owner of the house, he was coming back downstairs, and he rounds the corner just as we get there. And then we all like run into each other. We're all like, ah! And he says, sorry, I'm late. And we're all like, ah. And he says, I assume you're all here for the open house? And we're all like, yes, we are. And he says, great. Okay, then. I want you all, if you can, to just imagine what it would be like if you lived here. And we're all like, I think we can do that. He then takes us on a tour. Imagine this was your kitchen. Imagine this was your fireplace. Imagine you were reading reports. We go upstairs. Like, imagine this is the master bedroom. And it's a nice tour, when all of a sudden his face goes white, and we follow, and we're like, what is? Gaze out the window to where there is a van that is pulled into the driveway, and there's a big decal on the side of a realty company. And we're like, what's that? He's like, oh my God, it's the broker. We're like, we thought you were the broker. He's like, no, I'm sorry. I was just walking by the house, and I wanted to imagine what it would be like showing this house to people who were imagining they were living here. And we're like, how could you do that? What are we going to do? You know, and this whole family is getting out, right, with the broker, a mom, a dad, a little boy, a little girl, and they've got this big Joe Biden, like lawn thing that they put in there, and right there, and I'm like, this is going to be so bad and so awkward. The broker's like, the fake broker's like, thank God, follow me. And we all go out into the hallway, and he reaches up, and he pulls down this little string, and this ladder descends down, and all 17 of us just up into the attic, and then he pulls up the string and pulls up the ladder after us, and we're all suddenly in there listening now as this family comes in to the house. And this is the family, and they are genuinely imagining what it's going to be like to live here. This family of Biden supporters. Imagine what it will be like to live in their White House. Well, unbeknownst to them, there's a festering horde of Trump supporters in the attic, you know, where it's very dark. But slowly, as our eyes are adjusting, I'm coming to realize, oh my God, there's 17 other people on the other side of this attic. I swear to God. And we're all like, oh my God, we were just walking. They're like, shh, we know. And then I'm blinking, and that voice, I'm like, Kellyanne Conway? Really? And the more my eyes are adjusting, I'm like, oh my God, it's Stephen Miller. And there's Pompeo. And there's Attorney General William Barr. You know? And it's very hot, as I said. And it's so hot and muggy that, you know, it's not long before you're taking off shirts. You know, I was wearing sweaters. Well, you know, everyone's wearing sweaters, and everyone's taking off some clothes here and there. It's just like, so sorry. So I'm a little hot. You know what I mean? Chris Christie there. He's taking it all off. He's, you know what I mean? And then I realized before too long, I'm like, people are sorry for bumping into you, but like, no one's sorry for bumping into you. And I don't remember who. I think it was Jared Kushner who was like, guys, y'all look a little tense. Maybe a massage circle. Anybody up for that? And everyone's like, yeah, let's do it. You want to do a massage circle? So we all get into a massage circle, and it's not long No surprise. I don't know. I'm naive. Before the massage circle turns into a circle of people getting very cozy with each other. Coziness that turns to a cuddling. Cuddling that turns to spooning. Spooning that turns to heavy petting. And I mean like heavy petting. Like they have these like weights and they put them on the back of their hands and like, I'm not going to go into more detail than I need to go into, but suffice to say, I have now enjoyed my very first 30-foursome. Which, if you've ever had the opportunity to have a 30-foursome and you turned it down because it just seemed like the logistics would be a headache, well, you made a mistake because it was incredible. Look, sorry, gay, straight, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, you sign up for this, you're in for a penny, in for a pound. And I mean that literally. From my vantage point, close up, it seemed, imagine a bird's nest, but made of human limbs. From an above vantage point, I can only imagine that the mess of our bodies probably looked like one of those magic 3D images where you can't really discern what it is at first, but if you let your eyes relax and go a bit cross-eyed, all of a sudden a 3D image pops out of God himself having sex with God herself. And I don't know what point it was. Some point I just found myself, I was like a little chihuahua. I was like a little, just like jackhammering. I was like humping on the side of someone's leg. And I sort of reached up to try and just caress their hair when I heard the voice say, no, not the hair. I've spent over $70,000 on that hair. Don't believe me? I'll show you my taxes someday. And all of a sudden that voice, I was like, oh my God. I'm dry humping the leg of our president, Donald Trump. Which I don't know if that's proper behavior, but he was so good. He reached down, gently took me by the beard, lifted me up, and said, I want to have you. Will you let me? And I said, I didn't know you were one to ask for consent, Mr. President. He said, well, answer the question. It was evasive, And that quote came to my mind, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And so, of course, I said, yes, absolutely. Now, I've never had anal sex before, okay? I've never had anal sex before, particularly on the receiving end. I loved it. That said, it was difficult at first. I don't want to denigrate the president, but he had a little difficulty maintaining at the beginning. And I felt bad. It was a little awkward until he said, do you mind? And I said, what? And I don't know where he got it from because he's naked. We're all naked. But he pulled out this little picture he had of the United States, in the middle of which he'd cut a circle. And he gingerly placed that over my bum and then inserted his member into the hole. And I'm trying to think of the most delicate way of saying this. Well, basically just by screwing the United States, he was able to screw me personally. And when we were done, he wasn't just a wham bam thank you man thing. He sort of reached down and sort of grabbed me by the beard and pulled me up and lovingly stuck his tongue into my mouth. And I received it willingly. And then he said, I want to keep doing this to you for the next 4 years. What do you think? I said, gosh. I said, wow. And I haven't even told I'm married. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm like, oh, this is so awkward. You know what I mean? And so I just say to him, I'm like, can I think about it? And he says, I prefer people that don't think. I don't know if you're aware of this, but my strongest demographic are in fact uneducated voters. Again, he sort of just pulls me in, grabs me by the beard and is kissing me. And so I just say, you know what, Mr. President, I'll do whatever I have to do. And then he pulls back and he's like, oh, wait a minute, you're a man? And I'm like, yes, why? What did you think? And he was like, oh, and I'm like, oh, did you get confused by, he's like, yeah, usually, I'm famous and they'll let you do anything and you can, I thought I was grabbing, and it was awkward. It was an awkward, it was like you know what I mean? Like, when like in the Olympics when they don't stick the landing, and it was like this, I was like, oh no, I'm not, that's not, sorry. And he's like, that's just what I like to do. And I was like, oh man, he's like, it's not the same. And I'm like, why not? In the dark, everything, but whatever. And it was pretty much done by then, and everyone's putting their clothes back on and we're all waiting to go. And then finally the family leaves, they get back in the van, and now just the broker is just on the front lawn. I don't know what he's waiting for. He's just kind of like fat, stout, white man just there. And then eventually we're getting impatient, and I don't know where the shotgun came from, but Donald Trump just sticks it through a hole and just shoots the man, shoots him just dead. And we all leave the house and we're able to go on outside to the front lawn, and Trump sort of playfully kicks the dead man and then laughs and then says to everybody else, luckily only Black Lives Matter, right? You know what I mean? And everyone laughs and they kind of dissipate, and I'm in shock to think, oh my God, it's true. He really can shoot a man on Fifth Avenue and not lose any support. And so I continue on to the party, and I got there a bit late, and everyone's in the backyard, and I walk in, everyone's got masks on. I don't have a mask. I'm shell-shocked, and I'm carrying the lemon squares. And everyone stops talking and looks at me as I walk in, and I blurt out, I just say, I'm sorry, I was just having anal sex with the president, and I don't have a mask because I got lost in this 34-some in the attic of this house we were hiding in. And right away, I could tell that was the wrong way to introduce myself, because nobody says a thing, and I'm embarrassment. And so I very quickly, I'm like, you know what, actually, I think I'm gonna leave. Just leave the lemon squares right here, and I put them out on a table, and then I walk mortified to the gate to leave, and then I stop, and then I'm like, actually, you're just gonna throw the lemon squares out. They don't respond, so I go back and I pick the lemon squares up, and then I walk to the gate, and then all of a sudden I stop and I turn back and I'm like, actually, I'm not in the mood for lemon squares either. So I go and I put it back on the table, and then I walk to the gate, and then I turn around and say, if someone could just return the Tupperware, because it belongs to my godmother, whose house we're staying in. And then I walk home, and I get home, and it's not 10 yet, and Vanessa's like, what do you, she knows I like to stay to the end of a party, and I tell her everything. I tell her the whole thing. And she's like, what? You said that to our neighbors? Like, this is now what they think of us? And I'm like, I know. And she's like, well, look, we don't know any of the neighbors. Eventually then, this is the thing. You must never tell anyone this story, ever, from this moment forward. And I said, but I what else am I going to talk about in my show? And she said, if you tell this story, I think it will reflect poorly on you. I said, I think in this era of perfectly crafted social media images, it's good for people to know I'm not perfect. She said, people already know that. I said, I want to make it clear. She said, it's already clear. I said, why do you speak so slowly? She said, I'm not speaking slowly. I'm just afraid you're going to start crying. I said, it's my party and I can cry if I want to. I said, well, if you're going to tell people about this, well, then tell everybody. Go to the media. And so we march on down to the center of Montauk, where the New York Times has a local branch. And they have a woman at the front behind a pane of glass. And I'm like, I'm here with a scoop on Donald Trump. And she says, take a number. And I take a number. And I go into this vast room. If you've ever seen like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's like a room that big. It's like an airplane hangar, and there's tons of people sitting in there, all with numbers, with their scoops of Donald Trump. And I wait my turn until eventually it comes. They bring me into a back room. And it's a bare room. There's a table in there. There's a harsh light in my face. And then a good reporter and a bad reporter come in. And they're like, we want the truth. And I'm telling them there's a water bottle like just out of reach of my hand, until they're eventually like, Donald Trump is campaigning in swing states. He is not here in Montauk. And I just start crying, and I'm like, I'm sorry. Yes, it's a lie. None of this happened. And I'm just sobbing. They're like, why would you lie? And I'm like, because the truth doesn't seem to get through to anyone anymore. So I figured just gotta go big or go home. That's what they do. And they're like, no. It's, it's the truth still matters. I'm like, no, it doesn't. There's a new provocation every single week, every single day. And no one can remember him from one moment to the next. I was like, what happened to Trump University? What happened to Trump Institute? What happened to the Donald Trump Foundation, a fake charity? Any one of these things are reason to be expelled from public service. What happened to the fact that he won't show his taxes for 4 years? He won't show. What's he hiding? How many other women has he paid off? How many campaign finance violations has he made? His lawyer went to jail for this very reason, but not Donald. Everyone's like, oh, we don't really remember that anymore. What about the Ukraine scandal? What about him being impeached because the taxpayers had given money to Congress, $400 million that they had approved for aid to Ukraine against Russia? And Donald Trump holds that up because he wants the president of Ukraine to dig up some fake dirt on Joe Biden. But whatever, man, all the Republicans in that impeachment process are just patsies to the president. They've given up on the idea that the Senate is supposed to be a equal part of the government, not to mention their handling of this coronavirus epidemic. 225,000 people dead. Donald Trump knew about the lethality of this virus back in January, but chose to not tell anyone because he believes in magical thinking that it will just go away, which it hasn't. We have just had our highest ever daily cases just 2 days ago. I think today was maybe the second highest ever. And what about separating children at the border? 540 kids, we just found out, are just like no longer with their parents. May never long with that. And how did Trump respond to that in the debate? He said, well, they're in very nice facilities. Yeah, you send your kids to those facilities. They're so nice. We have kidnapped these children. It is an abomination, all right? And I would feel this way anyway, but maybe I feel it even more because I got a little child myself who's upstairs, right up there. You can't see her, but she's upstairs. She's asleep right now, I hope. I was getting a little loud, but I think she's asleep. And look, she is the reason this election matters so much because, as I've made clear, what I have a year to go, I have maybe another month, a week to go. I don't know. I'm 52. I'm almost done here, but she's 2. And she believes the world is good. And I believe the world is good. I do, but I believe that our president is not, and that we should have somebody leading us who is the best example of who we aspire to be, that it's somebody that can represent us to the world, that can represent what America should be to my daughter. Every single night. When I put her to sleep, I put her to sleep every other night. We take turns every other night when I put her to sleep. I sing her a lullaby of my own making. It's a song that I sing, and I think it's a funny song because it's the jauntiest lullaby that you will ever hear in your life. And I enjoy singing a jaunty lullaby, and it's called A Song of Freedom. And it is funny to me because it's so incredibly earnest and on the nose. What I do is I make up the lyrics. They're different every night. And I sing about real aspirations for our country and society and mix them in with real fond memories of our daughters from that day. And the song goes something like this. It goes, let's sing a song of freedom. Let's sing a song of voting rights. Let's sing a song of digging holes deep into the sand. Let's sing a song of women's rights. Sing a song of racial justice. Let's sing a song of blueberries and traveling to other countries. Let's sing a song of ending gerrymandering. Let's sing a song of good hugs. Let's sing a song of splashing all around in the ocean. And as I sing this, I bop her around. And every night she'll say to me, let's sing a song of freedom. And I'll say, yeah, you want a song of freedom? And I always act like it's a brand new idea, as if that isn't what we do each time I put her to sleep. And the thing is, though I started singing that song as a sort of joke, I am, I guess, seriously instilling into her values that I hope that she will carry forward, that she can believe in. And I honestly think this election is pivotal in making sure that this country stays or recorrects the path it's on, I should say, because it's not on the right path now, not with this person who's in government. I think it's been said a million times before, but it's important that we all have to go out there and vote. And to that end, I received this in the mail today, my absentee ballot. And I opened it right before I went online today, and I thought, yeah, you know what a perfect way to end this show, right? I'm just gonna vote right here, right now, in front of you, right here. There we have it, right? And I've got a pen here, and there it is. I'm exercising a right that so many people have died for. So many thousands of years where people couldn't do this, where people just had to deal with whoever was in power. Well, we don't have to deal with it. So here we have it. Proudly vote for Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris. How inspiring is it to have a woman as a vice president for my daughter? And so please, guys, don't be apathetic. You can be an activist, even if it's just on Facebook. Go and vote. That is a big thing to do. It makes you, in and of itself, an activist. Thanks very much for listening, everybody, tonight. This has been a great way to have a birthday, Yeah, it's really the most sober way to have a birthday. If you enjoyed this show, look, please consider donating to. There is no other job I'm doing than taking care of this little girl and this moment that I'm having with you right now. Theater won't be back for who knows how long. And the whole way that I've always made an income is by going around and telling stories and performing. And so they'll be up on a screen in a bit. You can donate to a PayPal thing or a Venmo thing. It is a great way of telling me that this moment meant something to you and that we connected. But if you don't want to donate, that's fine too. I won't know. You could just send me a message and you can say, hey, I enjoyed that. Normally at the end of a show, you get some applause. This, I'm just going to fade to black, and it'll just, I'll just be sitting here wondering, did anyone enjoy that? And what did I just say? If all goes well, I plan to do one of these shows every 5 to 6 weeks if the support is there. More than that, have a great Halloween. Go out and vote. And I'm going to fade to black, but I'm still sitting here. You're still sitting there. And we'll just have a moment of listening to the few crickets who are still left. I am impressed with how hardy they are. Thanks a lot, everybody, and be safe.